You don't wake up one day and decide that you no longer feel connected to people. It happens slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. At first, it feels like tiredness. Then, it feels like disinterest. Eventually, it feels like distance. You still talk to people, still reply, still show up when needed, but something essential feels missing. The emotional thread that once made interactions feel alive now feels thin, fragile, or completely absent. What makes this experience so confusing is that there is often no single moment you can point to, no clear event that explains why you feel this way. Life might look stable from the outside. You might even be doing well by many standards. Yet, inside, there is a sense of emotional disconnection that doesn't go away. No matter how much you try to ignore it, this disconnection usually begins as a protective response. When emotional closeness repeatedly leads to disappointment, misunderstanding, or emotional overload, the mind adapts. It doesn't announce this change. It simply starts pulling back. It limits emotional investment. It lowers expectations. It teaches you, quietly, that feeling less is safer than feeling deeply. Over time, this emotional withdrawal becomes automatic. You don't consciously decide to hold back. Your system does it for you. You stop fully opening up, not because you don't want connection, but because your nervous system has learned that closeness often comes with a cost. Many people who feel disconnected were once deeply sensitive and emotionally available. They cared intensely. They felt things strongly. But sensitivity without safety eventually becomes exhaustion. When you give emotionally and don't feel met, something inside you begins to shut down to preserve itself. This is why disconnection often coexists with emotional maturity. You learn to be calm, reasonable, and controlled. You don't react much anymore. You handle things on your own. From the outside, this looks like growth, but internally, it can feel like numbness. You may notice that even meaningful conversations don't touch you the way they used to. You understand what the other person is saying, but you don't feel it. You respond appropriately, but without resonance. It's as if there's a layer of glass between you and the world. This doesn't mean you lack empathy. In fact, many disconnected people are highly empathetic. They sense others deeply, but struggle to let themselves be sensed. They are emotionally aware, but emotionally guarded. They feel for others, but not with them. One reason for this is emotional self-abandonment. When you learn early on that your feelings are inconvenient, excessive, or unwelcome, you stop prioritizing them. You become good at suppressing emotional needs to keep peace or maintain relationships. Over time, this creates distance not just from others, but from yourself. When you are disconnected from your own emotional world, connection with others becomes shallow by default. You can't share what you're not allowing yourself to feel, and you can't feel deeply if you've learned that depth leads to pain. Another layer of this experience is unresolved grief. Not just grief for people you lost, but grief for versions of yourself that were never fully seen or supported. When that grief isn't acknowledged, the system doesn't know how to release it, so it numbs instead. Disconnection can also come from chronic emotional stress. If you've spent years being strong, responsible, or emotionally available for others, without equal support, your system eventually reduces emotional output. It's not giving up. It's conserving energy. This is why you may feel more at peace alone than with people. Not because you dislike connection, but because solitude doesn't demand emotional performance. Alone, you don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to adjust your emotions to fit someone else's comfort. Over time, you may begin to believe that this distance is simply who you are now, that you've changed, that you're no longer capable of deep connection. But this belief confuses adaptation with identity. What you're experiencing is not a permanent loss. It's a learned response. Your system learned that closeness once hurt more than it helped, so it chose distance, and distance worked. That kept you functional. It kept you stable, but it also kept you emotionally separate. You might still crave connection, but only in theory. When it appears in real life, it feels uncomfortable or overwhelming. This creates inner conflict. You want closeness, but you don't feel safe inside it. So you stay in between, neither fully connected nor completely alone. This in-between state can last for years. It becomes familiar. Familiarity feels safe, even when it's empty. And because it's familiar, you stop questioning it. Even though something inside you knows that life is meant to feel more alive than this. Disconnection is not a sign that you are broken. It's a sign that at some point, feeling deeply became too costly, and your system did what it was designed to do: protect you. You didn't stop feeling connected because you don't care. You stopped because caring once asked more from you than you could safely give. As this distance continues, it often reshapes how you see yourself. You may start believing that you are someone who doesn't need much from others, someone who is fine on their own. This belief feels empowering at first, but underneath it often hides disappointment that was never fully processed. When expectations quietly die, independence takes their place. You might notice that you rarely feel truly understood anymore, not because people aren't trying, but because you've stopped letting them see the parts of you that need understanding. You share thoughts, opinions, even stories, but you keep your emotional core protected. It's not intentional deception, it's self-preservation. This is why connection can feel draining instead of nourishing. You're present, but guarded. You'll listen, but with distance. And that distance requires energy. Real connection gives energy, but partial connection consumes it. So you leave interactions feeling tired, even when nothing negative happened. Over time, you may also lose trust in emotional timing. You've learned that opening up too early can backfire, so you wait. But waiting becomes a habit, and the longer you wait, the harder it feels to begin. The moment never feels right, so connection remains postponed. There is also a fear that if you let yourself feel again, everything you've been holding back will surface at once. Sadness, anger, grief, longing. Your system worries it won't be able to contain it, so it keeps the emotional door only slightly open, enough to function, not enough to overflow. Disconnection is often misunderstood as numbness, but it's closer to emotional compression. Your feelings are still there, just tightly packed. You sense them in quiet moments, late at night, or when something unexpectedly touches you. A song, a memory, a look. These moments remind you that you haven't lost your capacity to feel. You've only been protecting it. You may also struggle with feeling seen. When people compliment you or express care, it doesn't fully register. Their words stay on the surface. This happens because your system learned not to rely on external validation. When validation was inconsistent, you stopped letting it matter. As a result, even kindness can feel distant. You appreciate it intellectually, but emotionally, it doesn't land. And when kindness doesn't land, connection weakens. Not because people aren't giving, but because your system isn't receiving. Reconnection doesn't require forcing openness or changing who you are. It begins with allowing yourself to feel small, honest emotions without judgment. Letting yourself admit when something matters, when something hurts, when something feels good. These admissions rebuild trust inside you. When you begin reconnecting with yourself, your interactions naturally change. You become less performative, less controlled, more present. And presence is what creates connection, not effort. It's important to understand that not everyone will meet you at the depth you desire. And that's okay. Connection isn't about intensity with everyone. It's about authenticity with the right ones. Your system doesn't need many deep bonds. It just needs a few safe ones. As safety grows, distance softens. You don't suddenly become emotionally open to everyone. You simply stop feeling disconnected everywhere. Moments begin to feel warmer. Conversations feel less hollow. You feel more like yourself again. Without trying, you were never incapable of connection. You were conserving yourself. And now, as you slowly allow safety back in, connection doesn't need to be chased. It returns naturally, at the pace your system can trust.